off here this evening in Freedom Hall. Brian Shramek laying it down. And we'll get the official distance here in just a moment. The Allis-Chalmers 80-30 coming to a stop.
Welcome everybody to Let's Go Pulling. My name is Michelle. Let's Go Pulling every Monday night is sponsored by the Outlaw Truck and Tractor Pulling Association. And us, gang of hooligans, are so excited to have Brian and Braden Shramek on with us tonight. Please, throughout the show tonight, share this out there to pages and groups and different things that you follow on Facebook. I've already posted this on the Feel Proudly Orange. But if you talk about a team that has signifying orange through and through, like even on the farm, the Shramek family. So we're excited to have them here. As always, Ryan Zolik up there in the top middle. I feel like this is Hollywood Squares. Ryan Rusnick, Leroy Schluter, Paul Romack, Brian and Braden, and the beautiful Brent Yarn down there in the middle. So please type your comments up there in the questions. Brian, Braden, welcome to Let's Go Pulling. Paul, take over, buddy.
Yeah, so as Jason said, we've got Brian and Braden Shramek here, and we just want to talk a little bit about the Shramek pulling family, the team, some of the different tractors that you guys have had. So I guess to start out, you guys have been around. The Shramek pulling team has been around for what seems like forever. Can you kind of talk about the history of the Shramek pulling team and where it started, and as far as like Dennis and where it is today?
Yeah, as you said, I've known it for all my life. So we ended up, and I got brought into it with my dad, Dennis. It goes all the way back into the late 60s. He had a 190 XT. And I don't know, you all probably remember some of the first NTPA pulls being out like at Bethany, Missouri, and Bowling Green, Missouri, and things like that. He was at some of those and pulled 190 XT back in those days. So he ended up, and as far as the history with it, that was the start. He was drafted in the Army. He ended up and got out of it for a few years. When he got back, just did it on a local level a little bit until around 1980, and hooked up with the McKinnons, Benny McKinnon, and they built a D21 that he pulled a limited pro stock. He later called that the Menace, and he ran that for several years, all the way up to the time that I turned 16, and ended up, and we built a second D21 for that same limited pro class, just a little different in weight. We called it Spit and Image. His tractor ended up became the Menace at that time, and we ran in the East Central Missouri Tractor Pulling Club for several years there through the 80s and early 90s, and then we ended up and had kind of one of those moments where we decided we wanted to take it to the next level. And just as that first tractor, or that first video there showed that 80-30 Youngblood, we ended up and acquired that from Brad Howe out in Indiana, one of the quad members, and brought it back to Missouri, and that's how Youngblood got started there in '92, actually. So that's kind of the start of it there, and how the Superstock and Youngblood name got going. So
now, your dad started in what class? What the 190 XT?
He pulled in back then. It was actually called Superstock, but it was just one turbo. He ran in the 9,000 pound class with a 190 XT, and there were several classes back then. and with mostly, you know, it was the same tractor he ran in the field, but I know he had a different hood because it had a bubble that they made for a bigger turbo, and you know, had a different injection pump, and you know, they shimmed up the clutches and stuff like that, and then of course they had to tear the stuff back apart to put it back to ready for the field use. But that's the, you know, he pulled a 190 XT back in those days, and that's how he got started.
Now, was the 190 XT a 301 then?
It was a 301 Allis, and of course the D21s and everything was a 426. So, but he would combat a lot of those guys, you know, with the 426s back in those days. And you know, you get back into you know, like I said, the McKinnon's was pulling back then. There was several of the guys that was running, trying to Cajun Queen there. I know that he ran against them guys, that side circuit tractor and Van Bockens and stuff like that. So it was back in that era, you know, it was been really neat to, I would have liked to see some. I know I really like seeing and hearing the history of it.
Yep. So when did you guys jump into the multi-charger realm?
Well, like I said, after we ran that limited pro stock class, which was just a 3x4 turbo back then, and we had to run a stock appearing pump, so we was running Rusamaster, and we kind of capped out with the limitation there, and we was down at Louisville there in the spring of '92, and in February, and I met up with Brad Howe, and his tractor, that 8030, was for sale at 426, and you know, 4 turbos, and he was making a change out of it, and so we picked it up from where he kind of left off and brought it home to have a state, you know, state super stock tractor, you know, and ran a state level here with TPM and things. So we ended up and did that. Well, that opened up a lot of doors for us. We by the end of that spring or the first pull, really, we was already getting a new Max Simpson up in Michigan. Of course, the history with Max speaks for itself, what all he's done and stuff with pulling, and he worked with us. And I actually spent most of the summer up there because we was trying to line out some problems we had with the tractor. And I remember going to some of those pulls, Coldwater, Marshalltown, Adrian, and all those pulls. And we finally got the tractor running, and I think we was over at Adrian, I think, and we ended up like with a second. That was our best hook, and the tractor ran. We came back, made it back for our state fair, and we won our state fair first pull with it. So anyway, but that's so it opened up a lot of doors for us, and people and connections, and so it was good experiences.
Now, was that tractor the only tractor in the stable until what, Youngblood came in, the Youngblood Super Stock?
So we ran that in '92. Of course, that was a 70/30 chassis, so it was heavy. So back then there was a 9,500 pound super stock class, and that's all we ran, 9,500. We did that for several years until they lowered the weight limit down to 8,200, and that 70/30 we couldn't make the weight limit. So we ended up and started working. We actually bought another pulling tractor. It was the Wilson's D21 chassis, and we took their rear end and put underneath this Youngblood motor, the 4-charger setup, everything else hooked up, and we ran that for 2 more years. I think to 2002, and then we set out the 03 season, and then we had Tim Engler was working on the component tractor that we still have today, the Youngblood chassis, and we converted everything over to a component chassis there in 2004.
Okay. So then you've got 2004, you've got the component chassis Youngblood. When did the legacy tractor come into play?
Well, just a little bit. That same time in 04, we ended up and brought Get Her Done out. That was a John Deere Pro Stock tractor. It came out of Wisconsin, out of the Wildman stable, one of the diehard Deers, and we ran that in conjunction with Youngblood. We was running Outlaws, and NTPA events and traveling, all over with both tractors. We did that all the way up to 06, and then that's when we committed to NTPA to run Grand National Points with working with Max Simpson. And in the year there too, he was trying to push for us. Why don't you all bring that tractor out? Think we'll do well and stuff. And so we did in 06, and we ran it for points. We didn't run the Pro Stock for points in 06. We just run Youngblood, and we did well. We ended up, I think we finished 4th that year, but we knew what we had to do to size. We had to step it up. We knew that we was behind. We made some good pulls, but over that winter we changed up turbos, we changed injection pumps, and we came out in that 2007 year. And that's when our history really starts. We actually started the Pro Stock on the Grand National level for points. We had Youngblood running, and everything just started clicking, and we ended up and made it. That's when Youngblood kind of made its mark on the NTPA circuit, and we ended up winning. That was our first championship, which then led to 4 other ones after that. Along in that run, we had 2 Pro Stock championships. So we was able to do that all the way up to the 2011 season.
2011. Yep.
And when 2012 came, we had. We still had, that's when we brought the Legacy out.
Yes.
And it was the first year we kind of run points, and it may have hurt us that year trying to get a new tractor out. And I think we both can kind of agree that probably if the Legacy wouldn't have been there, we felt like we probably could have had a number 6 there on that title year. But is what it is. It was good experience, but that's in 2012 we brought out the Legacy there. And that's what Braden, he hadn't started yet pulling, but he was in a lot of the help with, when we was figuring out how we was what sheet metal and different things. He was becoming quite familiar with what we're doing and came into the picture. So
carrying ether, no doubt.
Yeah. So we go through a lot of it, don't we? So
that's for sure. Now, in there somewhere, in that you say it was 2012, you came out with Legacy. When did you get rid of the Deere Pro Stock?
We got rid of, trying to think exactly. It was it around 12 or 13? So the Get Her Done ended up, Smuckers, after we won points with Get Her Done in
8 and 10.
8 and 10, and Smuckers helped us in 2010 with it, and they bought it either in 11 or 12.
Let's say 12.
It might have been 12 right there when we brought out the Legacy, and because I think it was 12 before the 12 season. So in amongst there was another tractor, and I know Jason we was talking about it earlier, the King of Deers. That was a tractor that we brought in and actually run as a super stock for a little bit. I had plans of running a big cube, 2 feet and 1 tractor charger back there in 2011, and before we brought the Legacy out and stuff, and was having some trouble with it, and decided to put it back as a pro stock. And we had some gentleman that was interested in it, so we ended up and sold it and went ahead and did the Legacy tractor. But that was a short period King of Deer tractor that we had in there as well. So
So we're in 2012-13. You're running 2 multi-charger heavy supers. Where did the mod idea come from?
That we still haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah.
So that was it was one of those things that we was out at Tim Engler's, and he had just acquired a 6-engine mod, and it all sounded good at the time we was talking about it, but I don't know. There were lots of things that went on after that made me wonder what I was getting into. So it was 2000, around 2011. And I had my brother John. He was a big help with that and helping us keep up the motors. By all means, not very inclined with the automotive end. I would turn wrenches, do what he told me to do, but he set it up. He was the one that helped us make it, make it what it was. And we had some good luck with it, times, but Chevys was just a little small motors, and we was pushing them hard, and we kept chucking parts here and there, tossing rods, and we ended up with, I think that one year we had, with two of those years, or one of those years, we won the points. And then we with both tractors, and we got second. Is that right, Braden? With it?
Second. Yep.
Yeah, we got second with the mod there and stuff. But we never could get that title. We had 2 second place finishes, and could tell you, what pulls lost it for us. So, but anyway,
Yeah.
Usually I was getting drug off the track because of it. So.
Well, as I'm sitting here, I'm trying to count the number of blowers and turbochargers in 1 year that you would have had, and I'm not sure I have enough fingers.
Well, it was the worst experience that I had with that mod. We was down at Chapel Hill, and literally when we left Chapel Hill, we had to put a new rear end, a new third member in it, a new reverser in it, and all 6 motors got tore apart, rebuilt. So
yeah,
anyway, that was a disaster, all because of a planetary, and anyway, it was the worst thing. But with the help of Tim Engler and his crew, we was in a points race, and we made it to the next pool. There was a pool in between, or there was a weekend off in between. So within 2 weeks, they had got that tractor tore back down and put back together, and we made that hook, and was in contention out at Canfield for the championship, and ended up second place at that time.
Yeah. There's no more of a true statement than when it says it takes a village to keep a super stock on the track. I can't imagine two of them and a 6-engine mod at the same time.
Yep.
But yeah,
we put ourselves through some punishment, I know, but with it, it's we've learned from some of that, some of those instances, and if you want to call them mistakes, experiences, or whatever, but we've hard work is what we are. It's that was one of the things when we have a good time at the poll. We have a lot of good friends, but when it's time to poll, we're there for a job and to get it done. So
yeah.
Paul,
Now, go ahead.
can Leroy talk, or are you going to talk the whole show?
Nope, that's fine. You guys jump in here anyway. I was just still working through the history like we were talking.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm enjoying myself back here listening to the history. I do have a question. If we can go back to the calendar year 2012, when you had the multi-engine mod.
Yep.
There was a music video from Dustin Lynch. She cranks my tractor.
Yep.
Give us the with the young blood in the background, and then the young blood unleashed made a cameo in that. Tell us the history.
And now I'm drawing a blank of who bought it, but they bought the Aftermath pulling team. They have that their mod over there as well. They ended up and they originally just bought 4 of the motors off of it first. They came over, or they ended up and they talked about it. They bought the 4 Chevys about the same time they bought the Aftermath tractor from what was her name from Minnesota.
Starts with a G. I can't remember how to pronounce it.
Yeah, but they bought 4 motors, and then they was wanting to buy the whole thing, and we was kind of set on our price, and then they came back over and looked at the chassis, bought the other 2 motors in the chassis, and we loaded it up for them, and so I think they're running it in a lighter class with 4 motors, I believe, when they're going against 2 Hemis, I think. So, but that's where it ended up at. So it was over there, I think in 11 or 12. We went over there and pulled, and got to pull over there at Amsterdam, or at the Hoya Pole, and had the honor of doing that. But we brought it back. We couldn't leave it over there then. We was trying to, but anyway.
What is it like to ship a tractor overseas?
It's not the funnest thing if you don't normally do it. I know several people have. Strapping it down in there, we made blocks and set it up. It wasn't on tires. We mounted it and supported it, strapped it down tight. We covered it up. They say that salt water moisture will still get in those boxes and stuff. But it's a little nerve wracking, and wondering if it's going to make it over there. You hear those stories that they say if the ship vessel and all that starts to go down or something, they're going to start shoving containers off, and you just wonder if where yours is sitting at, because I think I'd actually heard Wayne Purser was talking about just before his went over there, he'd actually read an article or something where some containers got shoved off right before it made it to port. So makes you wonder. So
yikes.
Yep. So
we've talked about the history. Now let's talk about the present. So in what was this, about 2 years ago, the Youngblood was in the first stages of being revamped.
See, that was right around 2 years ago, I'd say. Yeah.
Yep.
We decided that we wanted to go a different direction. We've been in the super stock class for a long time, and I've been kind of on him a little bit here and there about getting into the pro stock class, because he said that most likely Get Her Done was going to be the first tractor I was going to drive, and I was looking forward to it. Of course, I was looking forward to driving Youngblood and Legacy, but I wanted to drive Get Her Done as well. And then of course it got sold and I didn't get to drive it. Well, I've always had this itch for the pro stock class, and so we kind of bounced it around for a little while, and then we decided that it sounded like a good idea and we wanted to try something new. And so we considered building a new tractor, but then we came back to still wanting. It was hard to give up Youngblood. Youngblood's been through a lot, and we're attached to it, and so we liked the idea of keeping Youngblood's chassis, reworking it, and putting a pro motor in it, and starting a new venture that way. So that's kind of where it all began there.
So did you basically, Brian? Did you just say, okay, Braden, go design this? And this is all leading up to this teaser video that was released before it was actually out, or when it was unveiled. But can you talk a little bit about the video?
Yeah. So I guess I can't speak for him, but I think a little bit he was like, hey, obviously you want to build a pro stock, and he was on board with it too. And he kind of gave me free reign, to do just about what I wanted. Of course, we were both together in it throughout the entire time and bouncing ideas off of each other and things like that. But yeah, and I had this vision that I wanted to, design every detail of it. And then whenever it got to the end, I wanted to present it in a way, that was, different and cool. And so I kind of showed or made a video and showed glimpses of kind of the process that I took, and just tried to show it off a little bit. So that's kind of where I was with that. So,
well, it definitely showed it off.
Just kind of remember, though, it was tough for me because here Youngbloods was such a part. It's a diesel super stock. It's got the old 426, block in it, and just trying to still incorporate, Youngblood to stick around. And that's where we decided, like he said, that let's stick with the chassis. Let's keep the chassis. Let's keep that. That's our roots. To give you all a little bit of information or detail, that, and one of the things that made that decision more easier for, that chassis was built amongst the time that Don Masterson built the Tinker Toys chassis. Same time that Kevin Smucker, they built the Rampage chassis. Those chassis are still on the track today in those same classes. So we knew that we had a good chassis, same era and everything. And of course, as you kind of see, you lit up on that video there at the opening of how the tractor run for the first pass out, it's got some pretty good potential ahead of it.
Yes, for the first time out, which was Lions, was it not?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. I was walking through the pits, and I knew that it was supposed to be there, and I saw this flash of orange out of my eye, and I was the weird guy standing there staring at it. I'll totally admit it. I was just, and there's a special color on that tractor, is there not?
Yeah, it actually took some iterations to kind of figure it out, but it's the base of it is actually an old classic GM muscle car orange. I think it's called Hugger Orange, and it's actually got so of course it's got some gold flake in it, and I actually think there might be a mixture of what they said, a Lamborghini color. I can't specify which one. I can't remember, but But we kind of went through. Biggest thing was the paint, I think, for me, or one of the biggest things, because I knew that I didn't want to put as many graphics on it, and I wanted to make it stand out alone on the orange and the paint. I wanted it to really, like I said, stand out. And so I really wanted to try to nail that. So we had several different iterations and trying to figure that out. And that's kind of what we landed on. So anyway.
Well, it turned out fantastic. I mean, the hits and the views on that tractor when it was released, you darn near broke the internet there for a little while.
Yeah.
So on that, so you still have the legacy, of course, in the shed, and you've got the Pro Stock. Do you have any idea? I know you guys are pretty good about posting on your page. Do you guys have a schedule yet for where we're going to see these tractors this summer?
So I guess we're gonna try to bounce around a little bit. We're definitely gonna try to run more this year, PPL, and we're even gonna try to hit some NTPA ones as well. I don't know if you can jump in, but I think that we're not necessarily going to stick to one circuit. And
I think it's fair to say that you've already committed to the Champions Tour,
Okay.
for PPL. So I think that first hook is at Farley, Iowa?
Farley, Iowa.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to being at that's it's for us. We're just trying to finish up some bean planting and stuff like that. But I tried to talk him into getting the tractor out last week while it was warm to fire it up, but it's ready now. So anyway, so we got it. It's everything we need to do for it just to load and go. So anyway,
yeah. Are the trenches still in the yard from where you tore up the yard last fall?
No, we tried to take care of those pretty quick. It was an accident.
Did not have a clue that he was going to do that. So he remembers them talking about when I did it in a different part on the farm with the super stock years ago. Nothing like this, but this is his grandmother's yard, which it was okay for the grandson to do it, but I know what would have happened if I would have done it. So,
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so yeah.
And we will be doing a live stream at Farley, Iowa, too, on what used to be known as Lucas Oil Racing TV. The new name of it, effective January 1st, is MAV TV Plus. So that will be our first live stream on the Lucas Oil Champions Tour, the 2-day event there in Farley, Iowa. So if you can't make it there in person, tune in to MAV TV Plus. Nice burnout.
Yeah, that sure had accident written all over it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We try to be pretty cautious. In Poland, as you know, and you all have heard of some of the accidents and stuff around, but it's, you got to test out a little bit of stuff, but you got to be careful in doing it, and the safe place to do it is on a track. So, but it does make you think sometimes. So yeah, he caught me a little off guard.
So it's time for Zolik and Roos to talk a little bit. Ryan has his orange shirt on, and he is a diehard orange fan. He's even got orange hair for you Shramek. So, Braden, I've known your dad for a long time, and my dad and I thought we wanted a diesel super for one summer. And after 18 to 19 turbochargers and about 40 pistons, I said, I don't ever want to see a diesel super stock ever again. So Max Simpson is a great man, Brian, and watching what you did in the red and green world, Brian, I still remember talking to you in Dubuque, Iowa. I mean, before you went on your big run, still had the old sheet metal on it, back in the pits, and you said, I'm going to figure this orange thing out. I'm going to shock everybody. And you weren't cocky. You were just confident. And my dad and I drove home that night because we had our little B21 that we thought was cool until we hung out with you guys. And
was that Dubuque or was that Oskaloosa? Was that Oskaloosa?
Well, I drank a lot in Oskaloosa, so I don't remember that.
I think it was Oskaloosa. That's where I remember seeing you all, meeting you all for the first time, I think.
Okay.
Yep. I think just that goes way back,
Oh, yeah.
So amazing. So, yep. So, but, with that, we surround ourselves with the people, and give Max, we had a vision of what we wanted to do. Max helped us get there. when we came into the picture, Max and them, the last time that an Allis-Chalmers won the Grand National points title was like 85, and so Max was, he was on board with us to be us to be able to do that in 06, but then to back it up 5 times, it's, no matter what they say, we know how to do the most with the least, but we use each other's talents. My dad is an awful good track reader and stuff like that, and he let me do the driving, and that worked out extremely well. I learned a lot during those years, and right now I gotta say is Braden's in that next step where I believe he's a very good driver right now, and he's got his grandpa and he's got me as I think the 2 best track readers that's out there right now. So we got a lot to learn. This pro stock world has changed since we was running Get Her Done. It's some big stuff, and I know we ended up and had a little slip up on the pole down at Nashville. And anyway, he was I know you kind of won the heat, so to speak, the prelim, and we packed it up, and then we had some clutch trouble on the next night, and
had a good hook going though. Yeah.
We had a good hook, but one of the things is maintenance and making sure we're always ready for that second, third hook, and anyway, so we still got a lot of work to do, but anyway, we're looking forward to it.
Braden, where did you drive the super stock first? Where was it? When was it? You 16?
It was in, I think, 2015, I believe. Okay. 2015, and it was at Toma, Wisconsin, right? Or, well, excuse me, sorry. I drove it in Mexico, Missouri first. First Grand National hook was Toma, Wisconsin. I drove it in actually hometown, right down the road, Mexico, Missouri. It was a small class. I think there was probably 3 or 4 tractors in there.
Yeah, it was. No, you had about 5 or 6 tractors.
Okay.
But besides ours, but yeah.
Yep. That's where
you drove Youngblood and Legacy at the same, in the same class. So
So
wait, what year was that?
It was it 15? It's either 15 or 16.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I was there for 16, I think, and that would make the. I think that would make that the first. Yeah, that would have been the first time you'd ever driven. I had no idea.
Yeah.
You kind of handled it like a pro.
Yeah. Well, in saying that, I was very pleased with it. You didn't know what to expect. As you've seen most time when people try to drive a multi-charger tractor, what usually happens the first time they don't get out. But, he's heard that tractor and he's heard that time and time again, and I guess he just he had the feel from it from day one, in my opinion. So anyway.
It's funny that you say that because that was the one thing that first time out I had in my head that I did not want to do was sputter it off the line. I wanted to make sure I got it off the very first time. And I can't remember. Of course I watched a lot of videos of tractor pulling and stuff, but leading up to that, I think I watched more videos, especially in slow motion, watching my dad take off, figuring out how to do it and stuff, just to make sure that whenever it came time that I was able to get it, get it done first time.
He was our video guy.
Yeah, I was
he videoed every run. Not only ours, but even some of the best pullers, Blake Graves and Esden and then guys too. He's been around them all. He was hanging out, from day one with them.
Yep.
So,
all right, Zolik, we're going to let you talk to him now.
You'll let me talk? Yep. Well, like you said, my dad's, my family, we farmed with Allis-Chalmers, so you can imagine the Allis-Chalmers group is, and like Paul knows, it's such a tight-knit community. Probably almost everyone knows everybody. And seeing an orange tractor in the winner's circle, when we would go to Toma every year, so seeing those passes down the track, and my dad did a little drinking, so he knows how to rub it into those red and green guys when you guys would make those passes down at Toma. So and now what you guys have done in the pro stock realm and getting that going, and we have a family that we're really good friends with back home. They still farm with all Allis-Chalmers. They actually have hosted an all Allis show, just their family, and they have over 300 pieces of equipment that they displayed. So they do that twice now. So it's Allis-Chalmers runs pretty deep, and I will always cheer for you guys and any orange one out there. So my grandpa's Z21 is still in my dad's garage. It was the only thing that survived the barn fire.
It was the right thing, wasn't it?
So, yeah.
Tough. Well, I think one of the first times was you down at Council Bluffs when we first met?
Yeah, probably when actually in person, or it was probably in the pits at Toma too.
Okay, probably
it could have been.
I remember down at Council Bluffs when Braden was trying to get the Legacy to run. Remember that?
Oh yeah, yep.
You know, I had to take a few shots of that, and that's when we was trying to get a little bit more life out of the 426, and felt like going to that 2 feet and 1 charger, easing up on that that bottom end and stuff. Anyway, he fought it there a little bit during the actual class, but then after the show was over, he was supposed to just kind of shut it down, but before he knew it, he was way out there. But he finally got it to lit, and we had to change up some water and stuff. But kind of remember that meeting him. But you talk about Allis tractors and the history and stuff on the farm. We've right now we have lots of pieces of Allis around there. Our main tractors are an Allis that we farm with daily, but we got 7,000, 8,000. We use them on mowers, we use auger tractors, lots of that stuff, and been blessed with being able to put together some of that. And even with our pulling friends, you'll be surprised when you go to a pull and you find out somebody said, "Hey, I got this tractor here, we're thinking about selling it. Would you be in it?" Before you know it, it's kind of added to our collection. We've got about 3-4 nice pieces that has come directly from pulling family that we consider, and word of mouth. But my dad, like I said, his first tractor was a 190 XT, and he stayed with them all the way through. And 210s, 220s, D21s, 7,000s from the 70, 50, 60s, 70, 80s. You just keep naming them. He, through his years till of course in there in the 80s, they Allis went through their change, and I think they're in the 90s is when he started replacing them. We ended up and started going to Versatile and some of those other tractors. But anyway, Allis they was on the forefront of pulling. Is like I said, I know it's you all have talked about it before, but Noble Harrison and what the connections he had with pulling and how they pulling, really, I guess, just accelerated under the Allis side of it. I remember going over to Pleasant Hill, Illinois, to Noble Harrison's shop as a young kid, working with Benny, Noble, Ed Elgin, and those guys. And I'm talking about when you get a box and it has experimental on it from Allis as a part number, that's pretty neat, So, and to have that kind of support. So anyway, but
now it wasn't Allis-Chalmers. They were maybe the only factory that supported pulling at one time.
Outright supported it. They was very upfront. They even sponsored. Back in the day, I remember talking to Danny Dean at one time. I believe one of the years that he won the Grand National Points, I believe he won the use of a 7,000 tractor from Allis-Chalmers. That was one of the sponsorships. But they helped with sponsoring it. They helped in producing parts. Like I said, we have some parts boxes that have experimental on right from Allis. Now you go to John Deere, and I don't know if you all seen that video and stuff, or that was put together with Van Bockens and stuff. That's some of those engineers came in to side instructors up there in Mexico, and they laid parts out. They couldn't figure out how they was getting this tractor to work, and that actually they used some of that technology to get some of their stock tractors to be able to perform and last in the field. But they never really would put their name fully on the side of it. They kind of was back, and I don't know if it was liability reasons or what, but they wasn't as front forthcoming as Allis was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they can claim, Waterloo engineers can claim all they want that they built the 466 in-house, but all of us on this phone call, we know we've all been inside that dealership where that motor came from.
Missouri, that's where it happened.
Yes, in side instructors.
going back to some of the stuff that helped me over the years. But you all know Van Botkins and great guy and stuff. When I was in high school, I was going to vocational school my junior and senior year over at Mexico, and I was building a pulling tractor then. That's when I built the Spit and Image tractor in that class. But one of the things that I did is I went to Van Botkins. I was working on an injection pump that year, and I went there. We talked to him, and he gave me some plungers for a 4-roller 310 pump. And he says, get those in there. He said they'll work, and that's what we ended up done. But that was one of my conversations and stuff that I ended up and had with Van. So very, very great to the sport and the history of it.
It's kind of cool to see the Cajun Queens coming back to life a little bit, even if they are kind of stock tractors.
Yep.
Neat to see those again.
Yep. Very. Yep.
I am told that Cajun Queen 2 was purchased in more or less in 5-gallon buckets not too terrible long ago.
Gotcha.
So it wouldn't surprise me if we see that one come back out as well.
Yep. So
Good deal.
So what happened to all the old chassis that you talked about now? Are they sitting in the barn or did they go down the road?
You mean the ones that like the 80-30, the 70-30 chassis? Some of that.
Yeah.
So that tractor ended up it's pulling in Indiana now as I believe it is a limited pro tractor. If I recall, I think Niesbaum is pulling it. The King of Deers.
Corey Hoffman.
Corey Hoffman in Ohio. Trying to think, is it Marion, Ohio?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yep, I think Marion, Ohio. Corey Hoffman, and then of course Get Her Done is in the Smucker stable.
Yep.
In Ohio as well. Legacy is it's sitting in the shed right now. We're trying to figure out exactly the direction that we're going to go with it. It still has the super motor in it at the time being. So anyway, so that's
teaser videos or pictures coming is what it sounds like.
It might be that motor may find its home in a different chassis. So anyway,
what about that? You talked about kind of that stopgap tractor that you ran both you ran it a little bit as a super, that Deer.
Yeah.
And a little bit as a pro. Is that the one that went out west to Nebraska? Is that Jeff's tractor now?
No, that tractor actually, we turned it back to a pro, and it went to Iowa. Okay, to R.J. Carson, him, and then it came back, and that's when we turned it into King of Deers, and then it went to Corey and them.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, same tractor there. Now there was the old chassis to the first Get Her Done. It was a cast chassis. That chassis got split apart. I want to think that chassis, the rear end stuff, might be part of the Sluter family in one of their tractors.
Oh, okay.
So I think it went north, but then circled back around. It gets kind of tough keeping up with them once they, but I believe that's where the rear end chassis, the rear end part of it is. That's a 4430, rear end. So
yep.
Anyway, but Clem, I think Clem had told me in a conversation once that he ended up with it and stuff. So
that's in one of those barn buddy tractors that still manages to win on one wheel half the time.
Yep, a lot of history there too.
Boy, those Schluter guys, they sure can drive.
They can. Yep.
I've never feared for my life nearly so much as when you see those guys get out of shape, and somehow they reel it back in and they go 462,000 feet.
Yep. Very good. Yep, a lot of history there too, and let off by Clem. So anyway, so.
Yeah, I got a question.
Yeah.
And Bruce, I know you've seen this before, but there's a lot of people that think, in the pro stock class, there's a lot of cross-dressing tractors, a lot of red running John Deere motors. How does your motor that you have actually tie into the Orange family?
You would take over.
You take over. You know the answer.
Your tractor.
Well, I guess first so the motor that we're running is the DNR motor. It's a recast block by Dennis and Rodney Schnicker, and so I guess we see it, or at least I do, and I think you can agree that we see it as an aftermarket block. So we wanted to run the 426 motor. I mean, we would still keep running it today if we could, but the pulling has got to the point where, especially with not very many limitations and things like that, the horsepower numbers just keep increasing, and this little block 426 just can't hold it anymore. And we're starting to see that a lot with Legacy. And so when we started looking at the pro stock side and we were wanting a motor and things like that, we knew that we needed to change something on that, on that spec. And we decided to go with the DNR motor. In our opinions, like I said, it's an aftermarket block. You can, some people may say that it's very familiar to an IH, but we also see that it's very familiar, or similar to a Detroit motor and, a 40 series Detroit. So I think you can look at it many different ways. But, we definitely weren't going to put a Deere motor in it. We definitely weren't going to put a Hypermax motor in it. Nothing against those motors or anything like that. But we wanted to stay as close as we could to the orange tractor without, in our means, if we went to the 426, like I said, we wouldn't be able to make it last in, today's world. So anyway, that's my opinion.
Center lines, as y'all know, center lines on a Detroit versus an IH motor are the same. So, we hang our hat on the, on the Detroit side of it, even to the fact the early ones was even, standard style, threads and stuff. So that's what we hang our hat at. So anyway.
Yeah. I'm not even sure you could take a 426 and get 680 out of it, could you?
Mark Gettinger can. So,
oh, really?
Yep, he's had a 680 Super Farm. Ironically enough, he ends up and puts an IH crank in it and gets the bore spacing back center and has done that.
That's the problem.
You get back to and I can't remember the exact name of it, the Super Farm tractor, but get a load of this. The Super Farm tractor they had, that was a 680 Gettinger motor. Anyway, but and they did real well with it, and yeah, with the 426, y'all know the history with it, and for us to be able to, proudly say up to, the last couple of years, that thing, it
held its own.
The Hypermax tractors and the aftermarket blocks, we just couldn't beat them all at the same time. That's our problem. When you got 6-7 bullets coming at you, it got to be tough. So, but it was a great class. We made a lot of good friends and in it and stuff and still have them in there. Bloody Graves, Esden, those guys, they just, remarkable in the story of the power that they're getting out of this stuff now.
Leroy, you've been quiet for a long time, and it's unlike you. What do you have to say?
Well, I was going to say that I think the orange paint, that's one of the big draws in that pro stock class because it's something different. I mean, no disrespect to the red and green tractors, but those are a dime a dozen. You can just throw out like Carlton Cope with his Warpath or Rush Yoder with Extra Butter. I think what you guys have done with the Youngblood is, like Paul said, when you showed up with the Scheid last year, all the jaws were dropping. It's something different, and you broke the internet.
Yep. Well, we definitely, taking into consideration, we definitely wanted to do that. We saw the pro stock class. Of course, I was interested in it for a while, and we bounced it off each other and stuff. Talked about getting back into it, but that was the big thing. We saw a lot of red and green tractors, and we thought it was a good opportunity to present an orange tractor and hopefully be competitive. I think it'd make it even more interesting for not only for ourselves but for the fans, and to see that in there, and like I said, hopefully be competitive against those tractors. So there's a lot of tough tractors out there, and it makes things interesting. So but just like a super stock class back whenever he ran, we had all assortments of color, I feel like, and that's what made things interesting, and in the fans really enjoyed watching was seeing the red and the green, and even like radical red. You call it, you can call it purple. It just all sorts of colors and things like that. That's what I think fans want to see, and that's what we were looking at. So.
I know last year there at the Track and Holes Hours at Nashville, you were touching on that earlier when you won the prelims. Definitely a crowd favorite that night. And, as an announcer, you're not really supposed to be pulling for one tractor or another to win, of course. But I know there's a lot of people disappointed to see your next pass wasn't the best for you.
Yeah.
Well, the way it worked out, it was a pretty neat setup. And really glad they was able to put that back together, and I think that was a rescheduled event, I think, wasn't it?
Yes.
So it was great that we was able to make it, and look forward to trying to make it back out there. It was a great place to pull, and so looking forward to that too.
I think every time you make another trip there to the Track and Holes Hours, you're going to see that facility is going to improve on every visit that you make, because Brad Holzhauer, he's wanting to make that one of the elite pulling stops in the country. So,
yep.
If you don't mind, well, I got in trouble with Facebook for playing that YouTube video. Warner Music
mute it.
blocked us, but I think I got all the disputes settled. I'll worry about it later. We had 300 and some people watching, and I played that video, and that was Leroy's idea, by the way. So I'm gonna blame Leroy for that.
There you go.
Jason, hit play and mute it. Mute the volume.
Yeah, I think you had the volume playing on the last one, but it's so quiet, but they still picked it up.
Yep.
But if you hit mute,
this one, they can't do that.
Braden, do you have any music in this one?
Yeah, it's Aerosmith.
Yeah, stream on. They'll definitely pick it up.
Okay. Here we go. Well, Braden, we're not going to play any sound, so you just talk about it, okay?
Okay.
I muted it, guys.
Yeah, I guess another thing too, Braden, didn't you come up with the design for the Legacy?
Yeah. So that was I guess you could say my first tractor design was the Legacy. So technically Legacy, whenever it was built, I had a very slight hand in it. Wasn't as involved, because I wasn't out pulling yet and stuff, and that was a lot of my dad on that end. And whenever I took things over, it still didn't have anything, as far as logo wise. It had the stock decals from the AGCO hood on it still. And so that was a big thing I wanted to do. And I even used Photoshop that I learned from school and things like that, and designed the Legacy decals. And of course, the big thing was, the black wheels. Wanted to, make it stand out in a way. And so I went that route. It was kind of a controversial topic, but
They was afraid he was going to put black wheels on this one.
Yeah. Yep. But anyway, it was in the mix as far as the pro stock, as doing black wheels or what kind of style to go towards. But I decided to go back to the shiny and chrome. So, but anyway, so.
Well, keep talking, Braden. This is your video, kiddo.
Yeah. So I just kind of wanted to show, like in this part here, show some of the thought process that I was taking. Like for instance, the big thing that I was trying to figure out, as far as like how I was just going to do something simple, the frame rails. I wanted. We kept them the same on the tractors for how long we've had them. They've just been the straight, normal frame rail
part right there,
same width as a chassis. And I wanted to make something new and different. So that's where I took several iterations and tried to make this gradual curve that matches the top of the hood. Things like that. I really wanted to focus on the details and stuff. So, but as far as this video, I really wanted to put together something that kind of was different in I'd say in the pulling world as far as releasing the tractor. I wanted to kind of draw it out a little bit and really show it off. And so I was thankful to have the opportunity here to go into the body shop, and I got to be in the booth with the painter. He was great with that, allowing me to do that. And I tried to get some cool shots, and Yeah. So it was a cool process. I really enjoyed doing it. And so, but yeah.
So how long did it take you to come up with the design? How many iterations of it did you go through?
So for this design, well, I guess it's hard to put the amount of time on it. It definitely went through a lot of iterations. Just like I said, with like the frame rails, I explored, what I thought just about, every way that I could, different looks.
I'll interrupt him here. There was a whole nother tractor that he had designed before this that was going to have a whole different frame and sheet metal look. Still going to be orange, but it was going to be old school. Yep. And I know he was really struggling with it. And of course, you all know these big turbos and these intercoolers and everything you got to mount underneath these hoods, and he just went to this bigger set, sheet metal to do it.
And it was kind of, and I'm not going to say a last minute change, but it was down to the wire where I did have to decide what sheet metal was, because, I hadn't even decided, before the tractor was sitting in the Engler shop, and the chassis was already reworked, and shocks were on the front, that kind of thing. And, it got to that point where actually I had to make the decision. So I went with the, like you said, the bigger hood. And, as far as other iterations, I tried figuring out if I was going to do black like the Legacy. I had an iteration where, of course, the rims were black. I had the hood, wrapped in carbon fiber, that kind of thing. I definitely think it looked good, but I got a lot of, advice or a lot of opinions about the going to the chrome and the shiny paint and make it stand out that way. So that's what I did. So anyway.
So guys, is that tractor, we know that it's NCPA ready and Champs Tour ready. Can you pull that at an Outlaw event too, or no?
No.
Not the way it sits.
We have an Outlaw turbo and a crossover pipe that disconnects the intercooler and stuff from it. So technically we can. We thought maybe we was going to run it there last year, and it just too late in the season. And then when he finally got it together for Lions there, as it was late August and stuff. So we just finished focusing on the way it was set up, at that point.
Can't blame you.
Yep.
Right.
So I wanted a little bit more history, and y'all mentioned earlier about Rodney and them. We was talking about farming and stuff. And anyway, we go back, when we was pulling back in the early 2000s with Get Her Done, we got to run against Rodney and Dennis and all those guys. And so we've known that family for years. Even my dad knew them back even in the 80s, and been around. So, for us to have our team, kind of commingling with their team and their knowledge, just want to give a big thanks to that, because we just know the dedication they put in it and the hard work that they do, that they're driven a lot like us. And like I said, we're just, we really think there's a lot of good potential here, as we did have a pro stock John Deere. I'm not going to tell you the big block Deere didn't come in our mind, but it was shot out pretty quick. And when we decided we were going to go this route and in this setup, and I think we made the right decision.
Yep. Agree.
Paul?
Well, yes.
What was the other sheet metal you were going to go with?
D21.
D21.
Yep. So, and I'm not saying I'm ruling it out, for future, but it was definitely, I had designed it a good ways through, and I was pretty well set on it. And then started looking at, or as we said earlier, as far as making everything fit, with that big intercooler and things like that. But I still think there's a way, and I think we're gonna, maybe figure that out sometime next year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
When you think of orange tractors,
you'd make a lot of orange fans happy if you went to 21 someday.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you think of orange tractors from the Show Me State, you got to think of the Shrameks on the diesel smoker side, and also the Terrys on the Yawkey burners with high strung. Yeah, that's another beautiful orange tractor from the Show Me State.
Yep. Well, you remember the Martin brothers with Mino Allis and Born to Boogie?
Mhm.
You know, those two was the sharpest looking tractors, you know, back in the day. You know, that was back in the late 80s, early 90s, I guess, you know, and stuff. So we know you can get 4 Chargers underneath those hoods. So anyway,
Mhm.
so, but
Yeah. Well, if you can stuff a big Charger and 680 cubic inches under a stock 1206 dimensions, we can get it in a D21. We can shoehorn that thing in there. I can promise you that.
Yep. So anyway, yep.
So
Takes
how's Dennis doing?
How's Dennis doing?
Yep.
He's doing great. He turned 70 this last year. Still excited and going as hard as he can, trying to slow him down a little bit. But, you know, when it comes to pulling, he's always ready to go, just like when it was time to go to Lions, you know. He's still one of the main drivers of the semi, getting it around and stuff like that. And, you know, so he's looking forward to this next season as well. And in this new chapter that we're going to, you know, that he's going to get to experience with his grandson. So, but doing good.
What's
Awesome.
the last tractor he's added to his collection?
Oh, he just bought a 190 XT down at Troy, Missouri.
Nice.
He remembers when the gentleman has passed. He's been for I don't know, about 10 years, but the tractor's been setting. But he remembers when that gentleman bought it new, and when he, of course, that was about the same time Dad had his XT. But anyway, so he was able to buy that. He brought it home here about, I don't know, maybe a month ago. So, yep.
Nice.
Yep. So, yeah,
has he added any new Fords to the collection since last year? Little known fact: Dennis Shramek has a pretty nice collection of Ford tractors as well.
He's got several Fords. So, so my grandpa and stuff, of course, grew up on Fords that started with the 8Ns and then went to the 861s and stuff like that, and then 5,000, 7,000, and so he has my grandpa's 5,000 and 7,000, and he's got some other tractors. But he trying to think of the last one. He hasn't bought one. I know he was looking at in fact, it was on a sale just the other day up in Northwest Missouri. It was a 4-wheel drive, and it was
that county.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a 5,000.
Yeah, it's a 5,000 driveline and an 8,000 motor. Yeah, it was up in Unionville.
Yeah, so he had looked at it, but I don't even know what it sold for. So
16.5. I found out from the auctioneer this morning. He was over the moon.
Yeah. What did 21 bring? Did you know there was a 21 there?
There was, and I actually didn't get the number on it.
That's the same thing. We had another gentleman, which we're not, would have took it for a bargain, but anyway, we got some other one. But we had one of our friends up there that they had it up there, and he was up there watching stuff and was talking to Dad. I don't know what it sold for. I forgot to ask Dad. So anyway, but we bought a 7030, one that has it was actually a didn't have a cab on it from factory, and they put an aftermarket cab on it. So we're gonna take the cab back off of it and make it an open station 7030, put it back the way it was. So that's kind of my last purchase. So I'm more of the 7,000 210s and stuff, but bought it just at a local estate sale that's been shedded for the last 20 years. So
nice.
But,
sometime when I get down there, I want to stop in and I want to take a peek at that collection.
Be more than welcome to. We're pretty excited. I don't know if y'all known or not, but we have the number 1 210 serial number that we restored. We're in the process of restoring the last serial number 210. And,
really?
And we had another one of those deals with the Pulling World and Friends, and that was brought to that knew where it was. It came out of Oklahoma, and so it's we've got it's getting painted now. So anyway,
so you're doing with 210s the same thing that Daryl did with 21s.
Kinda. Yep.
Have you heard about his latest project?
What's that one? I might have.
He's recreating the prototype D21 now.
The
one that looks like the overgrown 17.
Okay. Gotcha. No, I haven't heard that yet, but that's what he's working with.
Yeah, he was looking for those 45-degree bar tires. Because he wanted to make it as period correct as he could, and so on and so forth. He's I mean, Daryl, once he gets a project started, he's going to see it through.
Yep.
And this thing is starting to take shape rather quickly. So I don't know if I don't think there's a reunion of the Orange this year, or gathering of the Orange this year. Is there?
I think so. Is it in Indiana? There's
was it there, or was it the one that was supposed to be in Hutch? The weekend of Hutch.
Yeah, I think there's something supposed to be going on in Indiana this year. I apologize for not knowing the thing. Dad was talking about, of course, Husker, or not Husker, the there at Rantoul, the
Century of Progress.
Yeah, the Century Progress. I know they're waiting to finalize it, but then there's I think Dad said there's something there. It might be in Illinois, but there's supposed to be a gathering. We've been asked to bring a couple tractors to it, Dad said. So anyway, that is, awesome. They got together here a few years ago to try to get, I forget how many D21s, but up there. And so anyway.
That was Pontiac.
Yeah, Pontiac. There you go.
Yeah.
Because my dad took down his and friend.
Yep.
Well, that's part of the fun part of my job responsibilities these days. So it sounds like I need to find out when and where and plan on packing my bags.
Yep. Dad, he's more on those dates. So you ask how he was doing. His memory's good, and he knows what he wants to remember. So he can tell you where he's going to be going after summer to some of those shows. So,
hey, and while we're on that subject, the last time I saw Dad, he asked me for something, and Jason, how many people are watching? Do we still have a couple hundred people watching?
No, that Warner Music violation really whacked us. But I'm gonna re-download this and re-upload it so we get our viewers back, because we had 300 people watching.
Okay, well then I'm gonna make this request here for all of you old school pulling fans, especially those of you from Missouri and Northwest Missouri. The last time I talked to Dennis, he asked me if I knew of any photos of him pulling in Bethany on the 190. I think it was on the 190.
Yeah.
Didn't he win a championship with that once, or place real highly or something?
He placed it. He done awful well there in the years. As far as winning a championship, no, but he won several pulls. I know he drug it around. He ran against at that time. Yorick,
Yep.
they had a XT that he was running,
Okay.
Back in that day and stuff like that. But yeah, Dad, just trying to remember, there's a couple more XTs. Dad could tell you all that stuff.
And Dad's been looking for photos for 45 years.
Yep.
And he's never found any. So for those of you watching from northern Missouri, southern Iowa, central Iowa, any of you who ever followed pulling in the 70s and ever made it to Bethany, if you have pictures of Dennis on the 190, you need to reach out to these guys. You would absolutely make his day.
Yep. So he had some good memories and stuff of that stuff. And, that I can't imagine, he was down around Troy, Missouri, and then them guys would load those things up on those 2-ton trucks and they would head out,
Yep.
Today we're spoiled. We're sitting there driving big semis and everything's air conditioned and stuff like that. But they went to work and threw weights and stuff like that. But yeah,
and drove old straight trucks with 2-speed rear ends.
Yep. I ended up, and I tell you, of course, Benny, McKinnon has just passed, and he was a great legend as well. But I remember him talking about the first years of Louisville. And of course, they didn't have I-64 going down. Yes, but I remember him telling me that when he came down to Louisville one year on a 2-ton truck, and they was running the front wheel off the shoulder because it was nothing but ice. That's how they got down there. And you think about, what guys did for pulling. It was just amazing and stuff. But anyway, but that's, Benny, like I said, Benny was another one of those guys that really influenced, especially me. Benny was, I could call him at, when I was 14 and my dad was, pulling that tractor. Benny would talk to me and take the time and just, really helped us out, and encouraged us to just get the sport going. So, but.
So you've driven pretty much every class there is. Well, not every class, but is there anything that either of you two guys would love to take a ride in? Just steal the fire suit and the keys, so to speak, for one night. What would it be and why?
I'll let you go with that.
Does it have to just be one night, or can it be multiple nights?
Oh, heck, it's your show tonight. It's however many nights you want it.
Well, it never, it could definitely happen. I threw the idea of a pro stock at him, several times, and it eventually happened, right? So you just got to keep throwing it out
That's
there.
right. You just got to keep hitting it again and again.
But I've mentioned the idea of a mini rod.
Oh, I knew that was coming.
I knew it was coming too.
Yep. So, and granted, the unlimited modified was a lot of work, and it definitely had its downside to it, but I enjoyed driving that thing, and it was fun whenever it was living, and I think a mini rod would be a nice substitute to that, and I think it'd be a fun drive. So that's
I don't know if Tyler Slaw is still watching, but he was, and I can guarantee you that he would absolutely agree with that assessment.
Oh, I'm sure.
They're a nightmare to work on the big multi-engine mods, but minis, you can get a bunch of them in a relatively small hauler, and you can drag it with a
exactly
a 1-ton dually.
You can paint them orange, Shramek. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Yeah, he thinks we can fit 2 tractors and the mini in there too. So anyway. But,
what about you, Brian? What would you drive if you could?
Oh, I kind of still. I had a thought a few years ago about a light super, and I would say if anything, I'd like to end up, and that would be something I'd like to end up and try to experience. So yeah, my days.
Talking a light Alki super, or are we talking we're going to go older school and do a cast rear and diesel?
That sounds pretty good. So that sounds pretty good.
Awesome.
So, anyway, so there might be still a little bit of life there in an old 426 block.
There you go. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
So cool. Well, guys, unless you have any more questions for them, let's let the Shrameks go to bed because they got pro stocks to work on and diesel supers to work on and stuff like that.
Hey, before we let them go, I want to say a big thank you to the Shramek family for your donations to Ship Shawana.
Yeah.
We put a call out to pullers for T-shirts and swag, and you guys came strong with sweatshirts, and it was all youth stuff. Some scale tractors that we gave away to kids, and these kids absolutely went nuts over them.
Big smile, Brian.
Thank you for doing that. Even though you guys didn't hook there, that was a great thing you did. So thank you.
Big smile. Big smile.
It makes it worthwhile. So
it does.
That's one. These kids are brings a lot of joy to us when we get to hang around the trailers after these pulls and stuff and seeing them and just you got to take the time and talk to them and stuff because they're looking up to us, and that's it's our duty and our responsibilities to leave a good legacy.
Yep.
So where can overgrown kids go to get a little bit of Shramek swag of our own? Asking for a friend, of course.
Well, hopefully you'll catch us at a tractor pull and we'll have some. So actually people have been asking, about T-shirts and the new tractor and stuff like that. And it's currently in the works right now.
I actually seen some of the designs that he's got that's going on. So literally last week he was putting his new stuff together and going to try to get that inventory level back up and get some orders back out there. So
awesome. I'm glad to hear that.
Good.
Thank you, guys.
Before they go, I want to throw the invite out. If one of you two guys or both of you want to join me on the broadcast during a class or two up at Farley, Iowa, we'll talk out in the pits and we'll bring you upstairs up in the press box and put you on MAV TV Plus.
Okay. Yeah, look us up. Remind us. So sometimes
we'll do it.
we'd be honored to do that. So
Good deal.
Hey, and by the way, you're in for a treat. That's one heck of a track. That's an amazing facility.
Yep. Gotcha. Yeah, haven't been there yet, but it's
Bring the big gear.
Yeah,
there's gonna
bring
be,
the big
be a
gear.
lot of new iron
We'll
there. I
use it.
think. So some new drivers in the class and some new iron. So
Mhm.
the way it looks like it's gonna probably start the season off pretty good. So
Yep.
Yep.
It's gonna kind of be like 90 Day Fiance, Brian. You're not gonna recognize that driver driving that pro stock.
Right.
I think that's right. So that's what I'm hearing.
There's a
So
lot of stuff flying around. Brian, thank you for what you've done for pulling. As an Alice fan, I gave up on him long ago. That's why I got that red one right there.
yep.
Kudos to you, and I'm not afraid to admit it. I wanted my cylinder head to be taller than this, and
Yep.
but Braden, you're a kid that could be, I guess kind of proud, but you're the most humble kid that the legacy, and I don't mean to make a play on the name of the words of the tractor, but the legacy that your family has, and your dad's a good dude, and your grandpa's a good dude, and it's just awesome. You guys are great people, and just down to earth, and anybody will talk to you, and you're great ambassadors for the sport. And Brian, when you were on that tear with those diesel supers and man 5 in a row, I mean, it was wild. It was awesome. I mean, it's fun to have that almost villain, like you can't beat him, but you're such a nice guy that, I mean, you still wanted to beat you, Shramek, don't get you wrong, but I mean, it was just awesome to have somebody dominant out there like that. You just don't see that a lot in pulling anymore. I mean, I think the last time I truly remember it was like maybe Jordan Lustig with the Silver Bullet when he was 16 years old, and the Alki tractors, that thing would just pick the front end up and it never stopped. You know what I mean? And then you did it with the diesel super. Just thank you. As a pulling fan, it's been great to watch you, Brian. I'm excited to watch what you and Braden do in the future as well. So
Appreciate it very much. Thank you all for what you all do too, for keeping it promoted and
we're trying.
being an ambassador to it. So it's been a pleasure. So
Have a good night, guys. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.
See
take
you,
care.
Charlie.
Yep.
Mhm.
Charlie.
Good night, everybody.